Good night, teacher. Today I'm going to present you my advanced training of doing business in the Americas. First, I'm going to talk about the article of the CEMEX Way Globalization. And I want to start with an introduction of this gentleman in here, that he was the engineer Zambrano, one of the great businessmen that Mexico ever had and CEMEX had. Why? This is of the rich levels that he know, uh, and almost that the history that he precedes, and almost of how he was a great leader, how he grown up the company that there was in the ground, and almost what type of environment he was. Because with this we can understand a little bit more what is the type of challenges that he was facing, and almost like all the solutions and how they solve, and almost why all of the decisions that he take was like the greatest options, and almost when they facing a new problem he face a new solution for that. So I think so interesting to know a little bit more of this gentleman. And first I'm going to talk about the politics and the policies. Why of this? Well, because the engineer Zambrano uh, started as a director in a very difficult time for the country. That was in 1984. And why? Because they have a great economic crisis, and they call like the debt crisis because we give like the government a bonus. I don't the like type of the stock market, but by the government. I don't remember correctly the name. And when when we need to pay all of that, we don't have like the money, so they start like the huge crisis of printing more money and the inflation going up. So with all of that facing, uh, we need to remember that Cemex have the 95% of the sales in Mexico. So what that means, when they increase the level of inflation, they're going to get lower the construction of the houses, the buildings, all of that. So, Cemex is a construction company. So the companies are going to facing all of these problems that we see, and almost to obtain more capital to expand. And almost we need to remember that Mexico have a protectionism policy. And what this means, that we don't have like the facilities to move the all this cement to another places. We don't have like that possibility. Yeah, it will have it. We need to pay too much taxes. We need to see like the way in that time was not that easy, just like we have right now with the NAFTA, with too much free trade agreement that we have in all over the world. But I'm going to talk a little more deeply of that in uh, further. Well, the clusters and the local economy. I think this is so important because when we face all the problems of the economy in the 1982, all of that, uh, I think like the engineers and planners are like, oh, nice, everything's so calm. But with this, we need to understand that that end in 3 months later, because Holcim, a Swiss company, owned 94% of the third largest cement company in Mexico. And we need to understand what this means. First of that, and with this, I'm going to show you why I mean like Zambrano have a problem and he find a solution to combat that, you know. But that means that they're going to have that company, the not only the economic power, almost the huge power of a great company in Europe. They have all the money to invest in Mexico in that company, that they can quit quickly in that time, Cemex. So, they start to increase the production. They need to start to Cemex seem another options. And almost with this, we can seem like the NAFTA agreement that they helps to put Cemex in other countries. But when we focus in all of these problems, we need to see that we are already export. the cement to the United States, but this corresponds to an 88% of the countervailing duty, but was later reduced to a 31%. And how I mentioned, when Engineers and Brandon has this problem, then come the solution that I already mentioned, that Holcim have almost stocks from another company in Spain. But with this, Cemex acquired the Valenciana and Samsung company that they cures more of the 60% of the cement market in Spain. So with that, Cemex have now a deal how to combat this problem that they have. And almost we need to see that the fact that in Spain just entered the European Monetary Union. So what this means? First of all, in financial terms, all that money you can get very cheap money. And why cheap money? Because you can get better um, cost of the money in Europe than in Mexico. So they can keep that money and move into Mexico to invest more. So see more solutions, to see more acquisitions in more countries that happen now. They are like in more of 20 countries in or not around the world. And all of this yes, it's not only investments for Mexico, but helps a lot to be able to introduce better practice and reduce costs. And almost with this, they are going to increase the income and the efficiency of the plants. Well, now the culture diversity and demographic. I think this is so important for understand why maybe it's not that growing up the sales of Cemex in the United States or in other countries. First, yes, I know that in here it says like the majority of the buildings in Mexico are doing of the cement, of the blocks, all of that, and in the United States is with wood. And almost yes, we have like the remount to the pre-Hispanic area when the Spanish in Mexico they start to construct like the pyramids and all of that with huge blocks, and in the United States they arrived the Britannics and they started building all of that. But I want to almost seem like the demographics that in here face it. And actually it's so interesting because in Mexico and the United States we have like different climate situation. In, for example, in Mexico, we face most like hurricanes and all that, so we need to the houses be a little bit more strong. In the United States, we face more like tornadoes. We face all of the snow. Actually, if we can see in the picture, we can see in the United States house just like this, and that is for the snow. Don't um don't push like all the structure and for going down just like this. And in Mexico, because the reason of we don't have snow, we don't need that. We have like different necessities, we have different culture, and for that is like the main that why Cemex is more in Mexico than in the United States. Now we have the free trade agreements in full effect, just how I mentioned it, 90s was like a great uh period for Cemex because with this, yeah, they're going to face a crisis in 1995, but we need to see what is now so dangerous, so just like in the 1982. And well, with the NAFTA, we can sell to the United States, to Canada, and then after that, they are going to start to moving all of that cement to all around the world. So the sales, there's not only in Mexico, there was a great percentage of the sales in another countries. So when the crisis comes in the 1995, Cemex have already uh, incomes in dollars in I think that time there's not already the euro, but I don't know, in pesetas I think there is one in Spain. So they have more diversity of that and that helps a lot, not only that time. right now for the free trade agreements that we have with other countries, we can use this in our benefits. Well, now in the financial frameworks, just how I mentioned, the crisis began in the late 1994, so they have a significant impact on the company. Almost in import costs for the equipment and materials increased substantially, and this is almost more in the depth in dollars because we can remember that the dollars go to 3 pesos to 9 pesos for one day. So they need to pay all of that. But how I mentioned earlier, that the focus on the competitives of putting more investment in other countries help to focus more in what is happening in other parts of the world, be more globalization, just how I mentioned at the beginning, and not more like in the problems that Mexico face. So just like the stock market, that you diversify all the risks that you have, and I think that is a great point for Cemex. And almost they adopt a prudent financial measure to ensure the stability, to refinance the debt, and almost the diversity of financial sources. And almost how I mentioned, the sales is no longer depends on 100% of the profit in Mexico. They made in dollars right now, in euros. So with that, I think he was one of the not the most lower companies that didn't go to bankruptcy, and is for that. And I think that is important to diversify your incomes, or maybe not like the products that are you selling, but putting that products in another countries. And the elements of the primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. Just very brief to don't read all of this paragraph. Just I put it just for have like a basis, but I don't think that really have like the primary elements because as we can remember, the primary is just like for the agriculture and all of those. But we face in the secondary and the tertiary sectors, and now we have another crisis, the global financial crisis of 2008. Well, the secondary elements that we can find in here is that occurred directly in this sector and the main possible for there to be a sale in inputs throughout the world. What this means that all the problems that we have in this crisis is because it's an immobiliary crisis. What is the problem with this? Well, Cemex is a cement company, and this impact directly with all over the world. So in here we have all the part of the construction that is the secondary sector that they start to quit the constructions, they start to stop because they don't have the money to put it. All the all the buildings, all the houses, they start to get abandoned in all over America. Not only the United States, almost in Canada, we have almost this phase in Mexico. But the good thing here is that, how you mentioned, we have investments almost in Europe, in other parts of the world that they don't make effects very, very clear in that. So then of that, what is the tertiary sector? First, the immobiliary agencies that they face like all this problem of we don't have what to sell, we don't have like all the cash flow that we need. And almost for the banks. Why? Because the banks they give like all the loans that they need to construction to get the property and all of those, and they don't have the cash flow almost because anyone can pay. Because there's some people that they can just like 7 loans, 8 loans, so they just get impossible. And almost banks that they told us like they never go to bankruptcy, just go to bankruptcy, just like the Goldman Sachs, I don't remember was one of those, the Lehman Brothers, and all of more investments. So all of these secondary and tertiary sectors, actually they affect for Cemex because if they don't have the construction, if they don't have sales of the houses, they can really move all of the cement that they have all over the world. So, you know, it's just for all of these situations. And just like a brief um, conclusion of this, first of all, thank you for all of this semester, teacher. Actually, was a very interesting uh, grade. The doing business in America. And just for I think Cemex is one of the greatest company what we have in Mexico. I think Cemex is the clearly demonstration that Mexico can be in the top of the companies. I think Mexico can do a lot of they can face problems with all of that. I think we have great leaders to put all of that. I think we have great companies to stay in a global world. So STEMEX and the history of globalization is just extraordinary. I almost for say thank you to engineer Zambrano that he and all of his team make possible the way that Cemex is right now. One of the, I think, is the first place in Mexico of the production of cement, and I think it's on the top 10 of the production of cement all around the world. The expansion that they have is just impressive. So I think it's very important to understand for the people who want to get a business, all of that, all of these stories for see and figure out what type of way they need to follow. And I think this history is what we need for the Mexican society. Thank you so much for everything, teacher. And this is all.